Hello everyone, I'm Pure Act, a Thomist who's in defense of classical theism. Today, me and my friend Mars, an Eastern Orthodox inquirer, will refute a multitude of atheistic paradoxes and arguments against the proposition of God existing. This will be uploaded not only to my channel, but also his. We hope you enjoy all of our refutations to the absurdities of atheistic philosophy. The first argument we're going to go over is the problem of evil, which goes as the following. Premise 1. If any omnipotent, omniscient, and perfectly good God exists, then unnecessary suffering would not exist. Premise 2. Unnecessary suffering exists. Conclusion 1. Therefore, an omnipotent, omniscient, and perfectly good God does not exist. The blunder of the atheist comes in with their understanding of all good. Omnibenevolence in the Thomistic and Pal by definition is something being fully actual. This is the transcendental view of goodness. So yes, God could stop unnecessary suffering, but he does not have to. The problem of evil relies on a definition of goodness that is skewed from what it actually means, as well as the first premise not ever being proven. Thomas Aquinas refutes this by proving there must be an underlying good behind it all, for evil does not have any ontology. Quote, one opposite is known through the other, as darkness is known through light. Hence also, evils must be known from the nature of good. Now, we have said above that good is everything appetible, and thus, since every nature describes its own being and its own perfection, it must be said also that the being and the perfection of any nature is good. Hence, it cannot be that evil signifies being or any form of nature. Therefore, it must be the name of evil is signified by the absence of good. And this is what is meant by saying that evil is neither a being nor a good. For since being and such is good, the absence of one implies the absence of another.
The knower paradox. The knower paradox belongs to the tree of paradoxes of self-relevance, like the liar paradox. Non-formally, the argument is saying, this statement is not known to be true. If you think it's true, then you are wrong, because the statement said you are. However, if you think it's not, then you would be correct, because the statement said so. However, that would also mean you know the truth of the statement, therefore, there is a forced contradiction. It was made to be contradictory. However, the knower paradox against God is similar, but just a bit different. Frederick Brenton Fitch basically says all truths are not knowable because if they all are, then all truths are actually known. This seems like a very weird conclusion. It seems hard to refute this position because it looks like some complex response is needed. However, it's not. We can simply say that there is one ultimate knower, being God. We are limited, therefore, we as humans do not know all truths. However, that does not mean that all truths are just not known, period, because that ultimate knower still exists. For example, let's say it's true that the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire, fell to the Ottoman Empire. There are people that know this to be true. However, there are still people that do not know it to be true. It's known to be true, but not by everyone. We can just apply this to God. Example, blank is true, but not known by everyone. However, the ultimate knower knows. So I would just say that the paradox only works from an atheistic point of view, or if you were to take not all truths are known to be talking about every single being/person. In other words, to take not all truths are known to be absolutely literal.
Another extremely common argument is called divine hiddenness, which goes as the following. Premise 1. If a perfectly loving God existed, all capable persons who sincerely seek God would find God. Premise 2. Some capable, sincere seekers do not find God. Conclusion. Therefore, a perfectly loving God does not exist. The fault relies on an exclusion of possible circumstances. Who better knows what would be best for the individual than the omniscient creator? So we can resort to excluded factors like them falling from faith, being killed prior to their choices, etc. So instead of having a possible world in which the individual does not choose God given outside circumstances, God could rather save them by their real intention and extraordinary grace. St. Gregory of Nyssa goes against premise 2. He argues simply that not finding God does not mean that he does not reveal himself, but rather it is beyond comprehension. This is true most certainly with Moses when he enters the mountain on Mount Sinai, The darkness is not a lack of God, but a presence beyond comprehension. To say one found God means they found the inner workings and details of a being which is said to be way beyond human comprehension, and thus couldn't happen.